Russia, which is the world's largest wheat exporter, last week increased export duty on wheat by as much as 32%. Russia seeks to curb exports in the face of high inflation that the country is facing, and it also faces potential supply crunch due to poor state of winter crops. But what has the impact of higher export duty on Russian wheat been on global wheat market? To understand all this and more, we now have Mr. Sumit Gupta, Managing Committee member of IPGA, or Indian Pulses and Grains Association, now joining us. Mr. Gupta, thank you so much for taking your time out and speaking with us here on ET Now. Last week, Russia imposed export duty of as much as 32%. Help us understand what could the implications of this be on global wheat demand-supply dynamics, and back home on India, are prices expected to surge even higher on account of these restrictions?
Hi, good evening, ma'am. First, it's a very important question because you have been able to put across what is the importance of Russia in the global wheat markets. And let's approach it from India point of view. India, we know at the moment has a 40% duty on the imports of wheat. And India has one of the highest wheat prices in the world. Today, consumer is paying around 32,000 rupees in Delhi for wheat, which is one of the highest prices in any part of the world. So, government policy right now is centered around curbing the imports or not letting the imports in to protect the farmer interest. As of now, if you look at the planting numbers, at best we'll be able to match last year planting numbers. So that means our domestic prices are going to remain firm. Our domestic supplies are not going to increase in a big way over last year. So government ending stocks even in the coming year is going to stay tight. And with Russian wheat crop not looking in great state and they increasing duty has what it means that we are not going to see a lot cheaper global wheat in the coming year. So to let imports in, we will only need to reduce duty. We expect wheat inflation is here to stay in India till the time we don't let the imports in by reducing duty, and which will help the consumers. So inflation is here to stay.
Inflation is here to stay, but since you spoke about import duty, which India currently imposes at about 40%, do you expect that to come down anytime soon going forward?
I will break your question into two parts. Whether we need wheat or government will allow wheat. The question is, do we need wheat to be imported in India? Answer is yes, we need wheat to be imported in India. Today, as your chart also shows, there is a price escalation of almost 30-35% in domestic wheat prices in India since the harvest. What does it mean? It means there is a wheat shortage in the country. Government stocks, which was 7.5 million tons last year, will end up around 7.5 million tons this year also on 1st of April 2025. So that means we are not increasing wheat production in India. Number one. Number two, our consumption is going up. And do we need wheat imports? Answer is yes, we need it. But government, as of now, to protect farmer interests, which is the right way of approaching it, maybe till now, has not let the wheat imports into India. But personally, I believe that today, because of this protectionist measure, South India is paying a lot more for the wheat than they actually should. And it is inhibiting the dream that is Make in India expansion of flour industry in India. And we believe that at some point in time, government will need to relax this wheat duty structure in the country from maybe 40% to 20%, which will protect farmer interest also and will also ease out the wheat availability in the country.
Right. So as of now, if you can help us understand how much have wheat prices risen by, say, over the last 2 or 3 months, both in the domestic market as well as in the international market?
I'll start with the domestic markets first, and it's a very important question, ma'am. And it's a very important question to understand from the future procurement point of view also. Today, wheat price in India, let's say Delhi is around 32 or Indore is around 30,000 rupees, okay, 31,000 rupees. Now, what is the job of these prices? The market, the next year MSP is 24250. So wheat prices have to come down to 24250 before the harvest of new crop. So government will need to bring liquidity through OMSS. Is it doing justice to farmer? Answer is no. Because at the off season, if prices are going up, which is reflecting the shortage of wheat in the country, and farmer at the harvest has to sell it much below MSP, which was and the prices which prevailed throughout the year. So that means farmer is getting on the wrong side because of the protectionist measure which is there to protect Indian farmer only. Now the question comes, can we import at 40%? Answer is no. We can only import at around 20%. Going to global markets, today CFR price in India is around $270 CFR into Indian ports. At 40% duty, it does not make sense to import. And last 1 month, Indian global wheat prices have remained stable because there is a big crop in Argentina and Australia, which is keeping global markets devoid of any rally in spite of Russian increase in duty or their crop not looking that good. But this situation will change towards March and April when we will have emergence or the crop conditions will become more prominent in Russia, Ukraine, and EU. And that is where it will become important for us to do stock planning or our food stock planning and food security planning for the country, that how do we want to approach the new harvest.
So currently, since the import duty rate is 40%, help us understand what is the landed cost in absolute terms versus domestic prices. What is the difference?
So today, let's say South India, if where imports will happen, it will happen only in South India. At South India, basis 270 and a duty of 40% with 10% surcharge, delivered price at port is 34,500 rupees, which translates to around 35,500 rupees mill delivered into South India for Russian, Ukrainian, EU wheat. Now, today, local price in South India is around 33,000 rupees. So at 40%, it makes no sense for Indian miller to import domestic, international or to import wheat. But let's say this duty goes down to 20%. At 20%, this price translates to 29,500 rupees at port and 30,500 mill delivered, and which at this 20%, it makes economical sense for Indian miller to import wheat from international market. And why this price is important? Because our next year MSP is 24250. There is a 150 rupees bonus declared in Rajasthan, if I'm not wrong. So, and that means South delivered price will not be less than 28,000 rupees for the coming season. And if government reduces duty to 20%, it will give incentive for Indian millers to reduce pressure on buying Indian crops. And that will help them to reduce inflation by flour sales on wheat products in South India. It will ease out the availability of wheat in North India also through OMSs. And I believe that will be a good step which will increase the overall supply and hence consumption of wheat products into the country.
Lowering import duty on wheat is clearly the need of hour. It is currently at 40%, probably lower at 30 or 20% will solve the problem. But as far as inventory situation is concerned, how is it at FCI warehouses? And do you expect any release in the form of OMSS will solve the situation in terms of pricing? Will it lower wheat prices in the domestic market?
It's a very, very important and interesting question. Last year, when I'm saying last year, 1st of April 2024, our opening stock was around 7.5 million tons. If and 1st of December, our stock is around 20.1 million tons. And we will end up on 1st April 2025 at again around 7.5 million tons of wheat. That means whatever we have produced last year, we are going to consume this year. Our wheat acreage numbers are not showing any fantastic increase over last year. That means our wheat acreage slash production will be in ballpark range of last year. So wheat, and in terms of what government is going to release through OMSs, I believe it is a compulsion for government to give out as much OMSs as possible, because through OMSs only they'll be able to bring down domestic prices from 30,000 rupees to 24,500 rupees, where they need this market to be to buy at new crop MSP. I believe December, Jan, Feb are going to stay firm. I don't believe that OMS can immediately cool off the shortage in the domestic market. Government will need to keep pumping the OMS's supply in the domestic market to reduce domestic prices in any meaningful way. But entire magic or entire situation depends on how the winter temperatures will be in month of Feb and March, which will decide the yields for the coming year. And I believe we are playing by fire by going so much low on the stocks, which is around 7.5 million tons, which is equivalent or less than 1 month of wheat stock for the country. And a country of 1.4 billion people cannot test this hypothesis of going so low on the stocks.
Understood. So that's how the demand supply situation is as far as India is concerned, and probably OMSS will not fully solve the problem of a lower supply in the domestic market. Mr. Gupta, thank you so much for taking your time out and speaking with us here on ET Now on a whole host of issues. Let's move
Thank you.
on and let's shift the spotlight to our next segment, Did You Know? And today we put the spotlight on diamond, because the biggest known diamond in the universe weighs about 2.27 thousand trillion tons, which is equivalent to 179 trillion double-decker buses. The youngest diamond is nearly a billion years old. Diamonds are the hardest natural substance known to man. They are 58 times harder than the next hardest material on Earth. The only substance that can scratch a diamond is actually another diamond. That's all the time we have on this edition of the show, but you don't go anywhere. Stay tuned to ET Now. Stay tuned to ET Now.